everybody, how's it going? I'm Laura from Allegro Conspirito, and today we're going to be talking about what to expect in your exam. So I wanted to post this video today because today marks the 9-year anniversary of when I took my grade 8 recorder. So I did Trinity College for recorder, I also did Trinity College for guitar, but I have done some guitar and piano exams on Associated Board. So although a lot of exams were cancelled this year, they will start coming back soon. So this is a video that I wanted to make just to let you know what to expect if you are taking a practical graded exam. And I'll talk about theory in a minute. So if you are under the age of 18 and taking instrumental lessons, usually your teacher will be the one who enters you for the exam. So your parents will most likely pay the fee for this. They go up as you go up the grades because the exams get longer and the pieces are longer. So like a grade 1 exam usually takes around the region of 10 to 12 minutes, whereas a grade 8 exam you are looking at more like half an hour. If you are over 18, like myself, you can enter yourself for exams as you are able to get your own candidate number. So a few weeks will go by and then you or your teacher will receive an email telling you where the exam is. It's usually the same place all the time. In my particular city, it's one particular church and it has been that particular church for years. And you will be given a time. And it is usually something very oddly specific, like my last one I think was like 14:57 p.m. or something. So if you are under 18 and still in school, you will be allowed time off school to go and sit your exam. It is often advised that you turn up at least 15 to 30 minutes earlier than your exam slot. Trust me, it's important. So when you arrive, there will usually be signs everywhere, like it would say like Associated Board or Trinity College, exams this way. And then as you go in, you will meet someone who's called the steward. The steward, I think, is sometimes a voluntary person that just helps make sure everything runs smoothly for the examiner and the candidates involved. So you will be asked your name and all your details just to like double check who you are, and you will then be signed in. Usually they will give you a slip of paper where you write down your choice of pieces and what instrument and what grade you are with your name. Most exams have different requirements, so with Associated Board usually you do one piece from list A, one piece from list B, one piece from list C. When I did the Trinity Recorder exam, I only did grade 8. I didn't do any of the other grades before, so I'm not too sure if it's the same or not. There were only list A and list B, and I had to do 2 from list A which were accompanied and 1 from list B which was unaccompanied. You will write down your pieces, the list they're from and the number which is in your book, or they will have a copy of the syllabus book there for your reference. As apart from piano, especially with recorder, when you get to the higher grades, I'm talking sort of 6 and above, a lot of the pieces are separate and you have to buy the separate sheet music for them rather than one big book like that's just grade 6 recorder pieces. So it's really important you get that number right. It is worth noting as well, you don't have to play your pieces as A, B and C. You can play them as BAC or CAB or whichever order you want to, as long as you have met the requirements of how many pieces you need to do from each list. My personal thing is I will always go for my middle of the range one first. I will put my weakest one second and I will put my strongest one last, just as it leaves the best impression. At that point you will then hand your paper back in, and if you're very lucky the steward might make you a cup of tea and you might even get a biscuit if you're really lucky. So at that point you'll be waiting and then you will be offered the chance to use a certain room off to the side to warm up. It's always a really good idea to run through your scales and pieces at least once in this room. Usually you will have around 10 to 15 minutes, but it depends on how tight the schedule is that day for exams. So if you are someone who has an accompanist, it's worth noting that you need to arrange the accompanist yourself. The exam board will not provide one for you. Sometimes this will be your instrumental teacher, sometimes you have to reach out to another pianist or another accompanist to accompany you. For my grade 8, I reached out to someone who was an accompanist because some of my pieces were quite tricky on the piano. So you also need to let your accompanist know the time and date of your exam and where it is. It's always really good to have a run through or 2 of your pieces with your accompanist in the practice room. Then the steward will come in and say it's time for your exam and will show you into the exam room. Honestly, there is really nothing to be worried about or scared of. I get performance anxiety quite bad, but at one point I was just really scared of examiners, and I've realised there is no reason to be scared whatsoever. Every single one that I've had has been really, really lovely and really, really nice. So examiners are usually grade 8 pianists themselves. If piano is not their main instrument, they still have to be grade 8 piano to become an examiner. So as you go in, the examiner will probably welcome you to the room and try to make you feel a little bit at ease, because it is normal to be nervous, even though there's nothing to be afraid of. To be fair, you have to be really, really bad to fail, and as you go up the grades, the pass rate does go down. Like, the pass rate for grade 1 is something stupid like 98%. You have to be absolutely horrendous not to pass. Anyway, the examiner will likely then ask you which part of your exam you want to start first with. Now, if you have an accompanist, you will most likely start with your pieces, and it is best to start with your 2 pieces that are accompanied, as most of the time you will have 2 accompanied pieces and 1 that's unaccompanied or on your own. Because you can imagine, if you do 1 accompanied piece first, then you're unaccompanied, then accompanied, they've got to like come and leave and everything. So going back to the order in which you do your pieces, even though you can do them in any order, if you do have an accompanist, it is perhaps common courtesy to do the 2 pieces that you're accompanied with first. However, if you are doing a piano exam, obviously you will not likely have an accompanist. I think at the earlier grades, I'm not too sure, you can potentially do duets with your teacher or someone else, in which case you would want to do those first. But if you are a pianist, you are likely to just be playing on your own, in which case you will likely be asked again which part you want to start with. Personally, I like doing my scales first. It's my least favourite part, and it just gets it out of the way, but it's also a very good warm-up before I play my pieces. I am going to be doing a video on scales and why they're important to learn and why you shouldn't just skip over them. You will then be guided through your exam by the examiner. As I said, they are really, really lovely. As I said, all of the examiners I've met have been really nice and make you feel at ease, and they're just really kind, basically, in their comments. So the only part of the exam you will not need your instrument is the oral part of the exam, in which case if you are a pianist, you will be asked to move from the piano so the examiner can play the piano for you to do the oral part of the test. When you're finished, the examiner will likely thank you for your time and you can leave. So at my local place, they give you a little chocolate bar when you leave once you've done your exam, which I think is really sweet and just really cool. So your results will likely take 2 to 3 weeks, if not a little bit longer, to arrive. Usually they arrive online first. If you have passed or got a merit or distinction, you will receive your certificate in the post around 2 to 3 weeks later. And with your certificate, you will also receive the examiner's handwritten notes from the exam, just talking about all the different parts of your exam, so the different pieces you did, the scales, the oral and the sight reading, with a mark out of whatever the maximum is for that part, and things that you did well and things that you could maybe improve on. And I have to say, the advice is usually very, very constructive and very well thought out and very valid. Definitely worth taking a note of. It's a very good idea to go through it with your teacher as well. Okay, so moving on very quickly to theory exams. So it's pretty much the same sort of process. You get a different amount of time per grade. So I've only sat 5 and 8, so I'm not too sure at the in-between ones, but I got extra time because of my visual impairment as well. So for grade 8 theory, I had about 5 hours, which was just absolutely ludicrous. Again, if you're over 18, you can book it yourself, as you will have your own candidate number, but if you are under 18 with a teacher, it's likely that your teacher will book it for you. So please bear in mind, for all associated Board of the Royal Schools of Music or ABRSM exams, for grade 6 and above practical instrument exams, you must have your grade 5 theory passed, or you won't be allowed to take the exam. So again, the process is very similar. Usually it's at the same place 3 times a year. It's a particular hall in my city that's not far from the church they do the practical exams, actually. You'll be given a date, a time and a place, and it is my advice that you turn up at least 15 minutes early, if not half an hour. So as you go in, there will be another steward sat there who will take your name and details and will tell you where you're sitting. Kind of like with practical exams, you will have people there doing all grades and all instruments. When you sit a music theory exam, you will have people sitting all different grades with you. So you'll have some people doing grade 1, some do 3, 4. So the most common is usually 5 and is usually the only one that people take because of the prerequisite for the AB exams. So you will sit down at your designated spot. You should have a piece of paper in front of you saying what grade you're doing, so you are then given the right paper. Mine was kind of obvious because I had large print. But anyway, and you are sat a certain distance apart from other people, so obviously no cheating can help. You are allowed a pen, a pencil, a rubber, things like that. You are not allowed to take in anything that shows a piano keyboard or similar. That's cheating. You will likely have 3, maybe 4 other sort of invigilators or stewards there who just make sure that there's no funny business going on. Basically, you sit your exam, and after that initial half hour is up, if you are finished, you can just pop your hand up and go, I'm done, please take my paper. Do make sure to check it through 2 or 3 times as well, and then you'll leave. Again, similar to practical exams, your results will be posted online within a couple of weeks, and if you have passed with pass, merit or distinction, then your certificate will be posted to you within the couple of weeks following that. It is worth mentioning, as I said, I'm visually impaired, so I got extra time and a large print paper. In practical exams, I get 2 minutes instead of 30 seconds for my sight reading and an enlarged score. So it is worth mentioning, if you do have a disability or a learning disability or some sort of condition that may affect how you take your exam, it is definitely worth looking into. So you can usually find this on their websites, either ABRSM or Trinity College, and you will have a certain code letter to put in when you apply for your exam. They offer things like extra time and extra help for people who maybe have dyslexia, for people who are hearing impaired. There's a separate code for people who are completely blind. They even have extra help for people who are on the autistic spectrum or Asperger's or anything like that. The only downside is you do have to send evidence to the exam board that you need this extra time. So I had to send over my hospital letters and my diagnosis from the optician and things. I cannot talk for Trinity College, but I can say with Associated Board that they only keep these on file for 3 to 6 months. So if you are taking multiple exams over a longer time period than that, you are going to have to keep sending them the evidence. It is annoying, but obviously your condition could potentially change. See, mine's not. It is a lifelong thing, as a lot of things are. But obviously if your condition has changed, they don't want to potentially make it a little bit unfair. Okay, so that's it from me today. I hope that was helpful and informative for you. Please like and subscribe to me for future music content. I do classical, rock, pop and metal things, as well as tutorials, educational videos and a few random bits. Anyway, if you have any more questions about exams, graded exams, music theory, things like that, I will likely do a separate video on diplomas and performance diplomas at some point. Please just pop them down in the comments below and I will answer as many as I can. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!